What happens when geospatial AI meets the people we rely on most? Our local heroes. Because today we're going far beyond buzzwords and straight into the streets, school zones and storm paths, the places where decisions have to be right the first time. Because today I'm joined by Justin Dennis, co-founder and COO of Urban SDK, a platform that is helping communities all across North America turn live data into safer roads, faster emergency responses and smarter city operations. And how technology is impacting things like road safety, using real-time trend data to spot speeding and crash hotspots before accidents happen, and measuring what actually reduces incidents. And also AI in government, practical wins that fit tight budgets, automating workflows, simplifying regulations, and improving citizen outcomes without losing that human touch. So if you've ever looked at a dangerous crossing, a flooded street, or a 911 backlog and thought, man, we should have seen this coming, this conversation is for you. We're talking solutions, not problems today. So let's bring Justin Dennis onto the podcast now. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Hey, good morning. I'm Justin Dennis, co-founder, COO of Urban SDK. We're a geospatial AI company serving local governments based in Jacksonville, Florida. My background is I've been an entrepreneur and SaaS businesses for about the last 20 years, always focused on data and analytics. And I live here in Florida.
Wow, incredible. Well, thank you for joining me today. And Urban SDK, I was reading, now supports more than 250 communities across North America. But taking you back to your origin story here, what was the problem that you were originally trying to solve when you co-founded the company? And has that mission evolved as AI has grown and improved? Tell me more about that origin story.
Yeah, definitely. So Urban SDK equips critical public services with a system of action. And so we empower kind of government decisive actions, leveraging our technology. And so we're very focused on applying our system to, modernize inefficient or manual processes with data, better data, workflow, orchestration, and artificial intelligence. We started the business in 2018 on the back of a program that was developed by the US DOT. I'm not sure if you're familiar. The US DOT came out with a Smart Cities Challenge grant. And it was essentially a $50 million grant opportunity for communities to apply technology to their transportation systems to improve quality of life, efficiencies in their local community. My co-founder, business partner, was familiar with the opportunity and brought it to me. My background is not in political service or public service. I have been a technologist building data analytics software, but he recognized how large the opportunity was in the market and that how inefficient a lot of these sort of public transportation services are operated or maintained, and there was just a real large lack of technology. So we read all 76 applications, which were communities applying for this $50 million grant, to try to understand what their thinking was, right? Like how do these communities perceive the definition of becoming a smart city? What were the challenges they were faced with? What were some of the resolutions that they had uncovered or thought technology could help? And as we began to sort of read these applications and understand what the landscape was, at the core, a lot of communities were describing their need for better data management, for better coordination between disparate departments, and a lack of, technology built for their bespoke needs. And it looked like a large, $50 million grant, one community won it. It was like, wow, this is, if all of these communities want to be a smart city and there's real money out there, and we couldn't quite put our finger on a specific entity that wanted to build smart cities, we said that could be a really large opportunity. And so we pursued it primarily to allow these organizations to just have a better understanding of the data that they're collecting. A lot of the communities were talking about how they were going to deploy smart lights and smart vehicles and, more cameras and all of this disparate sort of Internet of Things technology, but without a real focus on how are we going to measure the outcomes? How are we going to understand what we need to improve or optimize? And what things are really having the most ROI or impact on our communities for whatever the objective may be. And so our initial focus was we would build an urban SDK to help them seamlessly connect these disparate pieces of technology, departments to process for better business intelligence so that they could make the next best decision from the most accurate set of information they could collect at that time. So it was lofty. We went to market, and I recall many customers not quite understanding what certain technology aspects they needed. Definitely not thinking about AI in 2018, and had limited exposure to how to integrate data via APIs or leveraging the cloud or just broad predictive analytics. And so we sort of had to step back and realize we were a little bit ahead of the market, but we believed that our mission would become incredibly important in the years to come. And so we didn't lose sight of what we initially set out to do. We began to refine our emphasis in terms of how we applied our system of action to the biggest problems cities face. And we really started in trying to reduce and understand how vehicular fatalities occur. In the U.S., it's kind of like an innately American problem where we lead the world in traffic fatalities. There's about 40,000 or so fatal accidents that occur each year, which is like the size of the community. That's larger than the community that I live in terms of total residents every year. And a lot of communities lacking information, lacking understanding, and sort of just saying this is something we can't control. We began to focus very specifically on all the corollary attributes of where, when, why are these fatalities occurring, and how do we inform certain agencies about those events, and what are some of the things that they could do to mitigate or reduce the loss of life in their community. And so that was kind of how we refined sort of our thinking, is let's just pick the biggest problem that is actionable in this concept of a smart city. It would make sense that a smart city would save lives. So that was kind of a first principle for us, was being very focused on, a core objective.
And I was going to say, as you said there, roadway safety remains a massive problem in the US. And I was reading before you joined me today that fatalities are still above pre-pandemic levels. So there's not too much has changed there. So how are cities using your platform to better spot danger zones and intervene before those tragedies happen, in a more proactive than reactive manner? How are they using it?
Yeah, so the foundation of our system is a couple of things. We want to replace manual data collection. A lot of communities struggle with just their ability to collect the most accurate information in real time. And so our focus is we want to provide the best set of information to these decision makers. The next piece in solving any major problem is understanding the process or the workflows that need to be conducted to address an issue. And so we help orchestrate regulatory or operating processes that produce a specific outcome. We then want to connect in terms of large scale problems. You interact with multiple departments responsible for specific components of addressing an issue. We want to allow technology to connect those departments to achieve common goals, as well as build software that was so intuitive to use that it required limited staff training, that any department could adopt the platform to increase efficiencies, to transfer knowledge between staff or new hires, and do so quickly. And then the final piece of that is our ability to measure across collecting new information, measure the processes and how they're operating, the connective tissue between departments, how they're communicating, to create a sort of continuous feedback loop. In the sense of fatal injuries, they're events that aren't necessarily always the same reasons aren't always why it occurs. So it's a continuous focus on how do we minimize the risk of certain characteristics. And so our focus on not just predicting where a crash is going to occur, that can be very challenging, was beginning to measure the elements that could cause a fatality. So we index data from connected vehicles to identify traffic conditions that are at risk. Most fatalities occur at high speeds. They're not happening at low speeds. We also leverage satellite information and satellite imagery to understand the design of the roadway. So a lot of times these incidents will occur based on the physical characteristics of where they are, whether it's the design of the road, lack of lighting infrastructure, or safe crosswalks. So we index kind of the characteristics of where these traffic conditions are occurring. And then we allow the customer to implement their processes for identifying high-risk areas. How do they enforce or reduce the risk? So that may be applying local law enforcement to have a presence in those areas. It may be making a physical change, adding a light, adding a crosswalk. And we provide the ability to sort of track that process, align it to specific steps, so that the community at the end of the day can understand what was the change that occurs. If we understood the traffic conditions on Monday, we realized there was some risk here. We made an officer positioned in the correct location. Did we reduce that risk element? Did we reduce the vehicular speeds in that area and allow them to see what's the actual countermeasure that could most impact this potential for risk? And that's really what we've been doing across many different use cases. There's just one use case in fatalities, but it was sort of our biggest objective. Is we felt like this was something that we could better understand with data and align process to truly start to measure the outcome and inform our customers and cities at large of, the most effective countermeasures to reduce some of these fatalities. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and obviously you're in an area of the world which has some pretty nasty weather sometimes as well. And I was reading that your Halo platform is currently being used by state and local leaders throughout the hurricane season and other emergencies. So walk me through how this real-time geospatial data can actually help communities prepare, respond, and rebuild more effectively, because a massive problem in the region, isn't it?
Yeah, massive problem in our region and broader regions with just, natural disasters seeming to continue to occur. We support local communities in their emergency response, leveraging our system of action, again, primarily to collect as much information in the area of impact as quickly as possible. So our platform, in the case of emergencies, we supported the state of Florida's response to the last two hurricanes, which were rather significant. We connect our platform to satellite, helicopter, manned aircraft, drones, and trucks on the roadway. And we allow them to stream information from all of those assets to understand with AI object detection in near real time of where impacts have occurred, whether that be flooding, debris, vegetation, general sort of destruction. We leverage the fastest moving communication pieces that we can identify and map where the impact has most recently occurred, so that the state agency or the emergency response can be coordinated to go where the issues are to alleviate the cleanup after a natural disaster, and to consolidate communication across many different departments during that event and following that event. And again, that's kind of leveraging the technology that we built, and its foundation and principles is just how do we replace manual data collection? What technology is available to help us do that? How do we orchestrate very specific processes and connect to disparate departments so that we can provide a better public service?
And I think here in the UK and over there in the US, we both see a lot of very similar things. And I would suspect that many public servants are already stretched thin, and they often rely on outdated reporting methods or after instant responses and old technology, etc. So what does this proactive data-driven decision making look like in practice for them, and how's it been received?
So a lot of times local governments can be reactive, whether that's a particular complaint or things building up over time. Our approach is leveraging data to help them identify and prioritize the next best step. It's really on their, management or their objective to sort of help prioritize. We just help them clear out the static, if you will. When you're inundated every single day with new requests, you can often lose sight of, hey, at aggregate, what's our strategy? What is really needs to be prioritized, and how do we quantify that? So we leverage analytics, and artificial intelligence to help them identify, hey, these are the problem areas. Sometimes they're not always obvious when you're just inundated with, static. So we help them visualize like their community. Where do we think these issues are occurring? Are they continuing to occur? Leverage trend analysis. See, is it getting better, or is it actually continuing to get worse? And then prioritize out of all of the things they could be doing, what are the most important next steps? And so we allow them to really quickly assess their community, but then also communicate back to the community. Here's how we prioritized. We've recognized that these are issues. We've addressed those, and we've now seen the impact of those things. It allows them to communicate back to the community that they're aware of the issue, and they're working very hard to make it a better place to live.
And I also read that you sit on a number of advisory boards that are focused on transportation and public sector AI. So from that perspective, how do you see AI continuing to reshape the way governments make those critical decisions in the next few years? Do you see any big changes? Are they embracing it more?
I think they're embracing it, right? So government always seems to start with regulatory. So in the US, I think we've seen an administration that's saying, let's not regulate this thing out yet, because we want to understand and learn its impact and not be fearful of its capabilities just yet. So that's one thing that's happened is the regulatory environment is saying we want to allow this innovation to occur, just like we did with the internet. We're not going to be scared of the internet. We shouldn't be scared of artificial intelligence. We need to understand how it fits in. And then So you're starting to see local governments adopt these things from a high level is they want to be innovative. They would need to be able to do more with less. So we talk about, staff reductions or budget reductions. AI is an enablement tool to help them do more, within their limited budgets. And so we're starting to see it come out through very specific point cases. AI is this big, big topic, but it's best demonstrated in very specific use cases that can make the most impact. And so in our case, we're helping customers take, hey, this big swath of data. How do we summarize it fastest? How do we take our regulatory documents that may be thousands of pages long and simplify them for those that need to, one, understand where the issues are, two, follow a regulatory or a procedural guideline that may not always be so clear to make the next best decision. So we're seeing broad adoption of AI tools and sort of decision support for public servants, as well as just being able to automate, touch points between two systems so that they have better communication. And so those have been the two biggest outcomes that we see. Now, we believe that this is going to be transformative for government to create efficiencies in citizen engagement and communication, service optimization, as well as just, the ability to operate the government with, fewer potential staff.
And when you first booked in to come on the show, I immediately went straight for a little search online, find out more about you. And I quickly saw that Urban SDK has been featured in quite a few major outlets, from Fast Company and Fox, to name but a few, for its emergency preparedness tech, which is, again, another genre which I didn't know too much about. So incredibly cool what you're doing here. But what does this broader recognition mean from some pretty big names there? What does that mean for scaling trust and adoption among leaders? Does this help, this kind of attention that you've been getting?
I think that it helps because we're still educating the market that these solutions are available. It's not a well-known thing. It's not a well-known quantity of capabilities that we can leverage satellite. We can leverage connected vehicles. We can leverage IoT, and it not be a, complicated integration into daily operations. And so broadly, these are helping inform the market. There's not been a lot of attention on technology companies focused on the government. I think it's truly important, right? If we're not giving one of the largest employers in the world, being the U.S. government, the right tools to be more efficient, then you just get in this political debate of, what we should do or shouldn't do. So our focus is, let's just help these people that are helping, millions, of our neighbors with better tools. And it's just been, widely ignored by innovative, founders, entrepreneurs, technology companies, because it's just sort of been this, hey, we can't really do anything about government. And we just believe that that's not true. We're pulled to build smarter cities, safer communities, and help our neighbors. And so we're happy to get some coverage. Not as much coverage as, some of the fancier, sexier industries, but we believe our mission is still going to be very impactful and produce a better world.
And as we look ahead, 2026 is just on the horizon now, weeks away. So what other opportunities do you see for geospatial AI, especially when leveraging this technology to improve the daily lives of citizens, whether it's through safer streets, faster emergency response, or smarter city management? What opportunities excite you there?
We're excited about indexing the data of our physical world. I mean, there's so much that has been ignored about understanding the the roads, the bridges, the waterways, the environment, the citizens, the economics of our communities. We've been building an index of geospatial data for the last year, and we're only sort of scratching the surface of what that will mean to business, to government, in our belief. If Google was indexing the internet, we're indexing the physical world. And the use cases that AI will help us deploy is going to be expansive, as well as the information that we're able to share with other technology companies, other leaders in different communities. It really starts with a foundation of replacing this manual data collection and just being smarter about our ability to make the right decision. So I think it's going to be broad in terms of our industry impact. But it's all at a micro level. We're still very focused on reducing fatalities, and we've just had a community come out, and say that we've reduced their fatal accidents, major community in the U.S. By 40% year over year. And so the ROI and the impacts are going to be undeniable. The scope is still yet to be determined, but we're very excited about it.
Exciting times ahead, and thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your insights. And before I let you go, I'm going to see if there's something we can do for you through the power of serendipity, maybe a bit of manifestation. I can't even say it. Manifestation as well. And some of the biggest names in business, VC funding, and tech have either been guests or maybe just listened to this podcast. So, is there a person you'd love to have a private breakfast or lunch with? Who would it be and why? Because he or she might just get to hear this, but who would it be? Let's see what we can create.
So I'll give you a lunch crowd, because I think I think conversation's always good in multiple different opinions, but one of the preeminent sort of business founders in this space currently is Peter Thiel, right? Yeah. And some of his investments, as well as his alignment to I think building better government. For sure. But I'd also like to sit down with Benjamin Franklin. And I'll give you why I think that would be an interesting conversation. Is one, I've always been inspired by Benjamin Franklin. He's a founder. He founded a nation, but he was also a business leader. And he was just, a very interesting guy. And I'd love to see the conversation between Peter Thiel, Benjamin Franklin, together over a couple of pints. That would be very, very pleasurable.
Yeah, can you imagine?
I don't know if you can bring him back for me, but that would be the one request.
All I'll say is roads where we're going, we don't need roads.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, and for anybody listening wanting to find out more information about Urban SDK, where should they go? Where can they find out more information about anything we talked about, or contact your team?
Yeah, urbansdk.com. Check us out. That's primary, or, go to your local community, and we're in hundreds across North America. And I hope we're impacting your city soon.
Awesome. Well, I'll have links to everything. If you do have any videos on your YouTube channel and things, I will stick a video on there as well so people can visually see what that looks like. But more than anything, just thank you for sharing your story today. Incredibly cool what you're doing. I'd love to see how it evolves, get you back on next year, see how things are increasing. But just thank you for sharing it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Neil.
So many big takeaways there on how geospatial AI stops being abstract the moment it saves a minute, a lane, or even a life. Proactive beats reactive every time. So identifying speeding and crash hotspots, deploy guard signage or enforcement where data proves that it can really matter and really make a difference. But do you want to see what this looks like in your city? If you do, maybe visit urbansdk.com, let them know, start a conversation. And if something here today just sparked an idea, maybe it's a school zone that you worry about, a reoccurring flood route, or a near-miss intersection, drop me a voice note at techtalksnetwork.com. Let's keep the community-level conversation going, because smarter cities aren't about shinier tech. They're about safer mornings, faster recoveries, and just ensuring everyone gets safely home. Let me know as always, but thank you for listening today, and I'll be back again tomorrow with a new guest and a completely different topic to explore together. Speak with you all then. Bye for now.